Hello and welcome back to the Game Bet Match podcast. I'm your host, Manny Friedman, along with my co-host.
Brad Sloan.
All right, back in the house, baby, for
Yeah.
semifinals. Wow, we've been consistent this fortnight.
Yeah.
It's
I
been good.
mean, I think we first couple rounds were tough, but now it gets a little bit better as the match just started. Like second week, the good thing about second week is it's possible to do previews. It's just not as exciting from a tennis
Yeah,
perspective. Like it's almost impossible to do like
yeah.
pods during the first week of a tournament. It's so much more fun.
First week is better. I mean, before I used to prefer before betting, I used to prefer second week just because the matches are better. But now
Yeah.
I much prefer the first week.
I did the lines are just so sharp by the time you get to second week. It's like
Yeah.
I can almost always tell you why the line is what it is, and then it's like a real guess.
But it's just you have matches all over the place. You have matches starting at 7 p.m. going until 7 in the morning. Like now with
Oh
the
yeah, you're
second week
sweating
with the
all night no
semis,
matter what. Good
matches.
day, bad day, whatever. You're sweating all night. Whereas like this is
Yeah, it's
yeah.
amazing. Yeah. All right, so let's get right into it. I guess since we have some more time, we can recap the quarterfinals. So the first one was Djokovic Fritz. We cashed on the well, we actually didn't cash, right? On
No, we
anything?
didn't cash. We had the under or
Yeah.
the I think you had I can't remember what you had. I had the under
I had the
games,
six
you
and a
had the
half.
spread, and neither cashed.
Yeah. Yeah, Djokovic nearly got the backdoor cover
Yeah.
at six and a half, but he couldn't
I
get
don't
that
feel bad
second
about
break.
that one
And
at all. Djokovic was 0 for 15 on break points the first two sets. That's just not going to happen very often. Like,
it's exactly. Yeah.
unfortunately, right? Like part of the deal with tennis with the scoring system is like a lot of times it's gonna come down to how players perform on those points. If Djokovic, I mean, if you told me Djokovic was gonna generate 15 break points,
Yeah.
I would have been more than happy. You know what I mean? I would have been I would have been thrilled. Um,
Right. The only thing I could say about that match from a betting perspective is I was probably right in hitting the spread rather than the total, right? Because of that fact, right?
yeah,
Because
probably. I mean,
Fritz couldn't keep it up in the third and the
but I
fourth.
don't know if it was so much he couldn't keep it up. He just didn't like how long is he gonna save 15 break points for?
That's true.
You
It's
know what
good.
I mean? Like at some point math takes over.
Very
Like
true. Yeah, I mean, I also had the no tie break there, which was painful. I mean, it was a painful match from a betting perspective. What do you take from Djokovic's play?
I mean, I think it's fine. You know what I mean? Like I don't think it's like I don't know. I think he looks pretty good. Like I'm not again like yeah, Fritz got a set. I get it, but like I'm not like concerned about this. I mean, honestly, like I'm the way I look at it is like he couldn't win any break points, but like again, how often is that going to happen? Like in that matchup, if they play 20 times, is Djokovic ever losing 15 break points again?
No, no. And I also had to bet Djokovic to break serve in every set, which is just it's painful because
I mean,
uh,
it's honestly more like the takeaway in my mind is just to back Djokovic in this matchup even more. Like if Fritz has to save 15 break points to win a set
I
to
know.
lose 3-1, like he's no chance.
No chance. No chance. Yeah, it was just it was more unlucky than bad from our part.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, he should be fine. I mean, so that wrist thing that he had in the United Cup is it has it even been brought up during this
Hardly.
night?
Hardly. I mean, it may exist and he's not talking about it, but I don't know. I didn't see it. Did he call the trainer? I don't even remember. I don't think he called the
No, I
trainer
don't
during the
think he's called a
match. Like,
trainer. He seems perfectly fine. I mean, and then moving on to the Sinner Rublev match, Sinner is playing incredibly well. He hasn't dropped a set. He's the only player who hasn't.
although Rublev had a 5-1 lead in that second set tiebreak. Rublev should have won that second
True,
set.
true. But I think it shows Sinner's improvement in playing bigger points better. Like I remember last year during Wimbledon, we were, or at least I was commenting on how he wasn't converting break points and he was just not playing those big points well. I mean, the semi against Djokovic at Wimbledon, he created a bunch of opportunities. He just couldn't capitalize. And now I feel like it's the reverse. Now he's being opportunistic
Yeah.
because he played really good tennis in that tiebreak to get it back to 5-all. It's not like Rublev gifted it to him.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I didn't think Rublev was particularly great either, and I didn't get
Okay.
to watch that
Fair.
much of it. But the little bit that I watched, I was a little disappointed in Rublev. But I feel like that's almost guaranteed once you get to this point in slams. To be honest, that Rublev's going to throw in a disappointing performance.
I don't necessarily think it's disappointing from him. I just think he's just not good enough. Like this is his ceiling, you know? And we could see it. Like until Rublev develops a net game, develops some variation, develops like some adds to his game, he's going to continue falling in this stage. Like he gets here only because of his, incredible will, his compete level, like physicality, great ground game. Like that's why he gets to this point. But then after this point, all these guys have that and then some, you know? So like Rublev, we see his ceiling. And this is his ceiling right now. Like unless he makes some drastic improvement, it's not going to change.
I think he can do better than get a set. Or I think he can do better than get. I think he can, win tie breaks from up 5-1 and
Okay, fair. But
you know what I
like
mean. Like
he,
like I would have. I wasn't expecting him to win the match, but I thought he could take a set.
but even if he pulls out that second set, does he win the match unless like Sinner goes away physically?
Well, Sinner was having the issue with his stomach. He was kind of
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up. So do you think that's a lingering issue? I don't
he
know.
said it. I think he said it was something he ate, so he should be fine. I don't know. It's hard to say. I think it's a concern. I think it's always a concern with Sinner. You know what I mean? And
It
who
is.
knows? That could be him saying that too. You know what I mean? Like if I was Sinner, I wouldn't want to. If I had a real issue with my abdomen, I wouldn't want to say anything before a big semifinal match.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it seemed to go away in the third set. He didn't seem to make
He
he
said it
didn't
went
even
away
call
in
the
the
trainer.
third. He said it went away in the third.
Okay. I
Um,
mean, I'm hoping it's something, he ate.
yeah. I mean, again, I'll go back to the breakpoint stats. 0 for 8 for Rublev, though, 2 for 7 for Sinner. So again, like, I mean, Rublev wasn't far away there for making that competitive.
Yeah, another disappointing loss from a betting perspective. I had the Sinner 3-1 at plus 230. Like
Yeah.
in hindsight, that's a fantastic bet. It just didn't come through. I had the Sinner 5.5 games. I mean, it's close to not hitting with the 7-6 set, but like it did. But more because of serving order in the third, I felt. So
Yeah.
and I had a parlay Djokovic to win in straights and Sinner minus 1.5 sets. And if I flip flopped them, I would have cashed there too. So it just was like a painful day in terms of betting. Like, but I
Yeah.
feel like decent reads, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think the books had it pretty spot on. Like,
They did. They did.
3-1 wasn't a bad look there, though. I'll agree with that.
But that's what the books were asking, right? Can Rublev win a set? Right.
Yeah.
And it was juiced to that end, right? But like
Yeah. I
not
mean, and I think
early.
Rublev showed, like, he should, I mean,
He should have. Yeah.
he should have been able to win a set.
Yeah. But I don't think any lower of Rublev because of this result. Right? Like the way he started the season is he's won a 250 and he made a quarterfinal of a slam, and that's been what he was last year, right?
Yeah. I mean, um, yeah. 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 I mean, I'm not, as a tennis player, I'm not too concerned. Again, like, if he holds on to that 5-1 tiebreak at, that 5-1 lead in the tiebreak,
Yeah.
then he gets, like, then we're talking a whole different, and he plays a little better in general. And if he wins a set, like, we're talking about like not anything really different. You know what I mean? I'm not, I guess I agree with you. I think he's still the fifth best player in the world.
Hmm. Okay. As far as the bottom half of the draw goes, yesterday's matches, we got QB and Medvedev. That won 5 sets. The over 40.5 cashed our GBM play, which was nice. It's kind of what I was expecting in terms of that matchup, right? They've had a lot of close matches in the past.
Yeah. For whatever reason, Medvedev really struggles with that matchup, and I'm not really sure why. Like, you would think he wouldn't, but he seems to really struggle with it. I think it's because
Um,
Medvedev doesn't necessarily have like huge weapons himself,
right.
And so he doesn't really do as well against Hubie and rallies as he should. And to give Hubie a lot of credit, like Hubie moves a lot better than you'd think he would.
He moves incredibly well, to be
For
honest.
a guy his size, yeah.
Because I think Medvedev feasts on guys that miss,
Yeah.
right? He likes
Yeah.
baiting you into errors. He doesn't really. It's not like Alcaraz where he pushes you to the limit where in the corners where you're going to miss, right? He kind of baits you into an unforced error. That's what Medvedev does.
Yeah.
So Hubie likes that because that's kind of what Hubie does, right? He doesn't hit errors. He serves and pushes, right? So Medvedev really needs to outmaneuver him in order to get the ball by him, and it's that presents a challenge that he's just not used to. And I
And then I
feel
think
like
on top of it,
that's
like, look, Hubie's going to ace anybody in the world a certain number of times,
right.
right? Like, it doesn't matter who, it doesn't matter if you're Medvedev. I don't know how many aces Hubie hit in the match, but, you know, uh, yeah, I don't care who you are. Hubie's going to ace you a certain number of times just because he's got that serve. Like,
Yep. Yep. It's very true.
and I think it was worth mentioning that how much Medvedev was able to move around with his return positioning.
Yep.
And I thought he did really well returning from the bait when he was up at the baseline. I thought he did really well actually returning the Hubie serve from the baseline.
I felt like it caught Hubie out of surprise though. Like I felt like Hubie wasn't expecting that, and that's what
Yeah,
caused that early break in the first,
100% agreed.
right?
I meant, but then he did a bit in the fifth too. I meant more like I thought the way he like the true returns. Like if you remember, he tried to do this against Alcaraz at Wimbledon last year, and it was a disaster. Like he couldn't hit the return. Like he was hitting returns in the net, 5 feet out, shanking balls like outside the net post. Like he was making the returns in the court.
Yeah, but I think like against Alcaraz, it was more the problem with after he gets the return back, he's just on a rope, right? Because like
Well, if he
Alcaraz
stands in his own position, yeah.
pushed him so much from the baseline, but like with Hubie, he knows that Hubie's not really going to hurt him off the ground, so there's less pressure on that return. Whereas with Alcaraz, if
Maybe.
Medvedev doesn't do anything with the return, he's toast.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think it's a different matchup. Like that's why Medvedev was able to alter the return position because he didn't feel super pressured in rallies.
It's hard to say, right? Because I thought he did really well with it, but to your point, he wasn't particularly aggressive. He was just using it as a way to like kind of take a little bit of time away, but it wasn't like I get it. It wasn't super aggressive returning from Medvedev.
Yeah. 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 I mean, I don't think Hubie is really a guy you can kind of fade or like I don't necessarily think he's a pure guy like he was last year. Like he it feels like he's returning better.
Yeah, it does. I don't know, man. I'm still not bought in yet. Like for me, he's got to beat more like top 20 guys. He seems to really. I'm not even saying top 5 guys, top 10 guys, but even top 20 guys, he seems to struggle with. I've got to see more from him against like his peers. You know what I mean? Against like
Mhm.
the guys in the 10 to 15 range.
Yeah.
So
What's
I
his
still feel
record
like a little
against
bit.
top
He's
10
what?
players? What's his record against top 10 players?
I'm looking it up now. Hubert Hurkacz.
Ubi.
That is a great name.
It is. He's 2-8 in last year or last 52 weeks against top 10 players. He's 5-12 against top 20 guys.
He's gotten a little better against his contemporaries, but still, that's not like.
Still not great. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see him do better against top 20s, given.
And he's 1-6 against the top five, but what the one win was against Sissipas, which doesn't really count.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
You're right. You're right. He has to prove himself more against these top guys. He's getting closer. I mean, he plays everyone tough. He
Well, that's
takes
just
sets
it,
off
right?
Djokovic.
I
He takes
agree.
sets off, took a set off Djokovic at the World Tour Finals at Wimbledon. Took a set off Zverev at the United Cup. Nearly won that outright. Took 2 sets off Medvedev here. Took sets off Alcaraz. So, like he just doesn't get over the hump. That's Hubie's thing, you know?
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
It's very close. Very close. But as far as Medvedev goes, I mean, I don't think it's been the greatest run for him. I don't think he's like shown great form
No, I
through
don't
the
think he's been good at
games.
all.
But this is what Medvedev does. Like, didn't we say the same thing in Miami last year?
Well, he's begun to embrace winning ugly in a way that I don't know that he did like a few years, like maybe 2, 3 years back. He's begun to embrace winning like, you know, more difficult
Yeah.
matches.
I think the best run of form I've ever seen from Medvedev was that 19 summer,
Oh
2000
yeah,
summer, right? Like that was winning easily, consistently, right? And
yeah.
he's never really reached that again, right?
It's tough to judge though, because like that was mostly smaller tournaments, right? I guess there were a couple of masters in
Not
there.
really. I mean, it was Washington D.C. Then it was that he made the final, lost to Kyrgios. Then he went to Toronto, made the final, lost to Nadal. Then he won Cincinnati, made the final of the U.S. Open, and then he won Shanghai. So it
Yeah, I guess that's
wasn't.
pretty good.
It's
Yeah.
not like, yeah. Um, but I mean, he's cemented himself as the second best hardcore player, though. I
Oh,
don't
I
think
would say yeah,
there's any
for
question
sure.
about that.
Well,
Well,
yeah, I
Sinner,
mean, I would say second, but I wouldn't say he's cemented. I would put Medvedev above Sinner still in a hardcore. But I wouldn't say it's cemented. I would say it's damn close between those two. It might even be like almost. It's. I think I'd say it's pretty close.
well, Medvedev made the final of the U.S. Open. Sinner made the fourth round. So, like, I don't. How much do you weigh those like indoor tournaments at the end of the year? Like,
Not as much, but
and it's not like Sinner won the World Tour Finals. He still lost that to Djokovic.
yeah,
You know.
yeah.
So
It
I
does have
think
2 wins over Djokovic, and granted, those were. We'll get to that in a second, but like, so I don't know. I look. I'd still say Medvedev. I would put Medvedev as second. I would agree, but I just don't think it's cemented. I think you could make an argument for Sinner.
okay. And then the Alcaraz Zverev match, we hit the over 36.5. We barely got there. It was we needed a choke. The third
Although,
set.
I mean, to be
Zverev.
honest, like I don't remember. I think I posted in our Discord like Alcaraz just makes 6 balls because like you knew if he could just make 6 balls a point, Zverev was gonna choke that. At least that's what I felt like.
Well, he even said it in his post-match interview, like it's not realistic to win 1, 2, and 3 against someone like Alcaraz or 1, 3, and 2, right? Like so he kind of was, I guess, felt like it was too good to be true almost. But how much of that match do you think was bad Alcaraz, and how much of it do you think was good Zverev? Like, what percentage would you give?
Both, both. I think it was pretty equal. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, look, Sinner served at like 90% for the first 2 sets, which is insane. Now, granted, I don't love and he was being more aggressive than he usually is off his first serve, which was
Mhm.
kind of the big deal. I thought. So I was being aggressive and going for corners and still making 90%. I don't love when people bring up the first serve percentage being high for Zverev all the time because he does serve at 70% normally. Like he does make a normally high
Right.
percentage of first serves in
I agree with
general.
that. Yep.
But I thought Zverev, but I also thought we were kind of getting a little excited about like, I'll just the serve is just the easiest place to break down this stroke. I think it's a lot easier to get excited about how like well Zverev is serving when Alcaraz isn't moving for returns, is just shanking every return out. Like if Alcaraz is making returns and returning better, I don't think we're getting all excited about Zverev's serving performance.
I agree.
So,
Yeah.
and then during rallies, Alcaraz was just the tactics. I mean, you mentioned the Discord, but I can't agree more. Like for 2.5 sets, the tactics were just, I don't really know what was going on tactically. It looked like it's almost like if he was hurt, that would be an explanation for it. But no, I don't think he was hurt, but like I was trying to understand what was going on, why he was just like I don't know if he felt intimidated or felt worried because of how hot, because Zverev did come out hot. But I mean, he's from like, after he got broken to go down 3-love in the first set, like Alcaraz started like getting way too aggressive.
Yeah, he tries to like hit himself out of a funk, and it's like it's just not the way to do it. Like even, with like lower level tournaments, like the way you get out of the funk is just making balls. like
Yeah,
finding
and he
a
also I
rhythm.
feel like tries to like he was trying to shorten the points.
Right.
And I didn't really understand that, especially when Zverev spent so much more time on the court. I don't really understand why you wouldn't want to make that physical. And with Zverev's with Zverev, I mean,
But it
look,
almost
I
felt
will say,
like Alcaraz was off balance in a lot of rallies. Like it just felt like, I mean, he shows incredible foot speed, but it doesn't feel like he was on balance when he was hitting the ball. And it just felt like he was rushed. And I don't know, maybe it had to do with Zverev's like good aggressive play, and that probably has something to do with it. But it just, I don't know. It's something is wrong. Like something is not right with Alcaraz. He's regressed. I would say since Wimbledon. I think
yeah, I agree.
we can say that. Like I know he had a good run in Cincinnati and like U.S. Open. He made the semis, but we're measuring him against really high standards, and that's what
No,
he's
no. If
built
you're
for
measuring him
himself.
against his normal standards, which would be second best player in the world at worst, and
Yeah.
competitive with Novak Djokovic, he's not there right now. So
No,
yeah, I
he's
would agree
not.
with you.
He's not. And he has a lot of points to defend coming up. So he, I'm not like panicking with him. I think he's fine. But like I did say in our preseason pod, I thought he was due for a little bit of regression.
Yeah. I mean, look, I ended up hitting it with you the no slams at plus 350. So that's
Yeah.
one down. We dodged one bullet. Now the French will be the hardest bullet to dodge, but one bullet's dodged.
Do you think clay is his best surface?
Um, I think relative to the other top guys, because I think like I would say Clay is Djokovic's worst surface by a pretty significant margin.
But like
I
I
would
just looked at the odds and Djokovic is plus 210 to win the French and Alcaraz is like plus 120 or 130. Like I think that's the must hammer for Djokovic right now.
yeah, it's just so far out. But yeah, I hear you. But if you look at the other top guys, like I don't think Sinner's particularly. Like I don't think like Clay is Sinner's best surface. Clay certainly isn't Medvedev's best surface. So I think
Yeah, you're
I don't
probably
think Sinner's particularly bad on Clay, but I think if you compare him with the top guys, I think that uh like the guys he's fighting. I mean, there's four guys who are really fighting for these slams, right? It's Djokovic, Sinner, Medvedev, and Alcaraz at this point in my mind.
right.
And of those four guys, I think you know uh certainly Medvedev and Djokovic don't love the clay. I think Sinner's probably more ambivalent. But then again, the clay is more physical, so that doesn't
Yeah, it's
look with
more
Sinner either.
physical.
So
Yeah,
yeah, I think if Alcaraz is going to win a slam, his best shot's the French, but he could
probably.
win any of them, right? He's got the talent clearly. So
Well, he won Wimbledon, which is probably the least likely one you thought he would get,
yeah,
right? But uh he was just in different form. The tactics were just way better at that point. Like, I don't know, it's regressed. And even like yesterday, that wasn't even 2022 tactics. That was like 2021 Alcaraz. Like that was really bad for a lot of it. And until he finally got his mojo in the third set, you know.
well, I don't think he
But
got his mojo. I just think he realized like, hey, Zverev might choke this if I let him for for the 5-3
yeah,
game. And then he played a great tiebreak. The tiebreak he played was awesome. So you gotta
tiebreak
give
was
Alcaraz
insane.
props for that. But
Yeah.
yeah,
And then the fourth set, he had break point, I believe, at 3-4 or something. And Zverev saved it with this like insane point, you know.
yeah. And he was able, and then
Hit
Alcaraz was
that
able to break
lob.
it 4-all and come
Yeah.
out, or Zverev was able to break it 4-all and come back and win.
Yeah,
um,
strong mental effort from Zverev to bounce back from that choke in the
hey,
third.
Manny,
Yep.
you said something about 8 months ago. You said you wanted me to tell you every time Zverev has a strong mental performance. I think this goes into the strong mental performance because
Okay.
after choking that serving for the match, I've got to put this one in the strong mental
Okay.
efforts from
Okay.
Zverev
I would agree with you. I would agree with you.
because he could have gone away. I thought he was going to go away after he lost the
Me
third,
too. Me too.
especially with all the extra time he's putting compared to Alcaraz.
He
And
was
I do think
minus he was minus 110 after he lost the third set. I mean, they were basically a pick 'em after the third set. I don't think it was good enough to hit Alcaraz at that point just because I didn't see enough of like a prolonged high level from him
yeah,
to hit that. It was tempting. Definitely was tempting.
yeah.
But yeah. Do you I don't know. I see Zverev, it just feels like he plays down to the level of the competition, but then when he plays someone as a dog, he tends to like be pretty competitive in those matches too. You know, it's similar to Hubie in a way, right? Where like he can go 7-6 in the fifth or third against anyone, but then he can also like rise to the occasion and beat some of these guys.
I wouldn't say it's as extreme as Hubie, but yeah, I'd say to some extent you're right. I mean, we did mention Zverev definitely has one ugly now ever since the injury return. He's definitely one ugly. It's hard to say because he really hasn't had any. I mean, is this his first top 10 win since coming back from the injury? It might be.
I think his only two top 10 wins in slams are against Alcaraz at the French and here.
Yeah, so I mean,
But there's no reason why Zverev should have been plus 400 on the money line against Alcaraz. Like
I actually can see that.
I think
I can see that
in high,
because wow, Zverev's won his last four against the top 10. I didn't realize that. It's pretty impressive.
really,
Yeah, he beat Alcaraz at World Tour Finals, beat Alcaraz in Australian Open, and then he beat Hubie and Tsitsipas, but still pretty impressive.
okay.
And I guess he did beat. That's right. He did beat Medvedev in Cincinnati, which I was surprised by. He beat Sinner at the U.S. Open. I forgot about that. I can't remember. I can't believe I forgot about all these wins. But yeah, he's got a bunch of them. So he's doing pretty well.
What about in slams against the top
Well, I mean,
10?
since 2020, since the past year and a half, he's got I mean, it's just the only match he's got against top guys is the win against Sinner, and then Alcaraz you can't even talk about because he was just so gassed.
Yeah. Yeah, so the Alcaraz or so his top 10 wins in slams are two against Alcaraz and one against Sinner in his
Yeah,
career.
yeah.
I got to see more in slams. Like this was a good performance, but I'm not really buying that he can back it up against Medvedev. We'll get more
I'm
into
also really
that.
not loving the choke at 5-3
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I don't feel like Alcaraz really did much, specifically in the 5-3 game, and even really in the 5-4 game. I thought it was more just Zverev honestly choking it away.
I mean, as you said, Alcaraz put six balls on the court in that 5-3 game
Yeah,
that got him the break, right? Like
yeah.
if he implemented those tactics more where he was just kind of digging in rallies and getting more balls in the court, like it's probably a different result.
I
It's
agree.
probably a
And
different
that's why,
result.
and I like plus 400 isn't that long, right? Like that's only 1-4. Like it's only, I mean, that means he still has to win 20% of the time to cover a plus 400. I don't know. Like he's not a better player than these top guys. And he's not and then you have to deal with the mental stuff as well when he gets close. I've got a hard time. Like plus 400 in a slam,
Everything is
like in a
easier in
best of three,
hindsight.
I would completely agree with you. But in a best of five, it's a different story. Like this is Zverev having the performance of his life for two sets, and Alcaraz being well below par. Maybe the worst performance, honestly, from Alcaraz we've seen in a
Well,
long time.
listen, we didn't hit it for that reason. Plus Zverev in, top against top 10 guys in slams
And
per
and
se
that's why
had
we hit the over, right?
best.
Like because I did
Yeah.
think Zverev was good for a set, and the book said Zverev was good for a set. Like 400 doesn't mean that the guy's going to get completely whitewashed. It just means that he's going to get beat probably solidly most of the time. It's tough, man. These
Yeah,
books,
I
these
mean,
second week of
everything's
slams.
easier in hindsight.
Yeah. I mean, nobody could have
Everything's
predicted that Zverev's going to come out and play the way he did the first two sets.
right. Right. And Alcaraz played that badly.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it was more bad Alcaraz than good Zverev, but like I don't, as you said, I don't think we should overreact from the serving performance because Zverev does typically get 70% of first serves in. That being said, I mean he was serving big and making them,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know. And I actually think that the double fault yips that he had a couple of years ago has really helped his first serve percentage because he just didn't want to miss. He just doesn't want to miss first serve. So like he's improved his first serve to the point where he doesn't have to hit many second serves. You know?
I think it's a little different. I think it's more that and I'm going to give Zverev all the credit in the world for this. I think he's realized that he has second serve yips, and so the best way for him to manage that is to take off the first serve a little bit. I don't think he did it so much against Alcaraz, but to in general take off the first serve, make more first serves, and avoid having to hit second serves. Because while his first serve percentage is super high, his first serve points one percentage is not nearly as high as his contemporaries in the top 10.
Okay. Yeah. He doesn't also have the best serve +1, I would say, because his forehand is kind of could
Well,
be
that's
a
the problem, right?
liability.
His better, like his wing is his backhand.
Right.
And yeah, Zverev out of the
Well,
backhand. You mentioned it, but Zverev out of the slot on the backhand is just incredible. Like
it's
that is just like
incredible.
I could watch that all day. Like
It's the best regulation
I was really disappointed that I didn't
baseline
really see
backhand.
ESPN do a breakdown of that, and I would have loved to see them take like 2 minutes, 3 minutes in between the sets and do a breakdown of
Yeah.
that backhand because like it's just such a
It's
it just feels like
incredible.
the perfect shot.
It is
And
so
honestly,
solid.
it might be the best shot in the game.
Just pound for pound. Yeah, probably it's
Yeah,
got to be up there. It's got to be like a top three.
because like I don't think there's a question as to whether or not he's got the best backhand in the game in the slot.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, definitely none of the one-handers. Um, I guess Djokovic, but Djokovic is it's more like a consistent on the run backhand, but like just a standard slot backhand, as you said, is Zverev all day.
Yeah.
I guess the Alcaraz forehand
Yeah, the Alcaraz forehand, you're right. But he does miss it a little bit because his
has to
tactics
be up
sometimes get bad,
there.
whereas Zverev, I feel like, is like I gotta say this too, Zverev's tactics are usually pretty solid too. Like Zverev, it's the forehand and the head.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. His tactics are pretty good. I mean, I think because like players usually don't have nearly as good of a backhand as he does, right? So
Yeah, I
like
don't think they're
that
particularly. I get
backhand
what you're saying. 'Cause
exchange
they're not
favors him.
particularly like interesting. Like he certainly isn't Djokovic, where like he's able to do like different stuff. But I think his tactics are like they're pretty solid. I would say maybe more than like great.
Well, I think it's more because his strength feeds into opponents' weaknesses,
True.
right? Like
That's a good
no
point.
one
Yeah.
has as good of a backhand. So like obviously if he gets into a backhand to backhand pattern, like that's what he aims for against every
And he can
righty.
really go either way with
Plays.
it, huh? Like the way he was down the line with it is pretty
Oh,
amazing too.
it's incredible. Yeah. It's great backhand. Yeah. All right, so that does it for our quarterfinal recap. So let's get into the two semis. So the first semi is, I mean, it really should be the second semi. I honestly think it's the final. To be honest, like I think whoever wins this match is going to win the tournament. Do you agree
Well,
with
the reason
that?
it's not is, and I actually want to applaud the Australian Open on this for doing it this way, because I think
Hmm.
it would have been pretty unfair to Zverev to throw him out there 36 hours after beating Alcaraz. At least with
Agreed.
this, he gets an
Agreed.
extra few hours. He gets the day to rest. So that's why they did, and I think it was fair to Zverev, and I want to applaud. It's one of the few times like we've seen tennis look out for the players, and
Agreed.
there's plenty to complain about with
Agreed.
tennis, but I also want to say like good on the Australian Open for finally making these on the same day. I know they did, I think, a few years back,
Hmm.
but like for a long time they had the separate semis, separate days, and that was just dumb. So
It
I
was dumb. So dumb.
progress is progress, and so like on the occasions when tennis
Yeah.
actually does something progressive, like I don't know, I want to applaud because we just spend a lot of time
Okay.
bashing tennis. I
Deservedly
know it's common
so,
sense
but
stuff, but you can't always expect common sense stuff, especially when money's involved.
I agree with you. I agree with you. So as far as this matchup goes, Djokovic versus Sinner, the two best um players I would say in the last like 3-4 months.
I
Um,
would also say the reason why I would say this is the final is because Medvedev's not playing that well right now, and I think Sinner gives Djokovic a lot more problems than Medvedev does. Not
well,
that
he has a
Medvedev
way
can't
higher
beat
ceiling.
Djokovic, but I think it's a lot. I think this is a much scarier match for Djokovic.
Agreed. Agreed. Djokovic is a 3.5 game favorite, -220 money line. Sinner is +180. The over/under is 40.5. From a betting perspective, what catches your eye first?
I think this line is perfectly set, to be honest. The more I looked at this, right? And in fact, if anything, like this is super lame, but like probably the best bet on the board here is just the Djokovic money line at minus 220. I know it's super juice, but if you look and I pulled up the stats, if you now I gotta dig them up. All right. I looked at the stats. Basically, if you look at the head-to-head where Sinner's won 2 out of 4 from Djokovic in the past year,
Mm-hmm.
the stats tell a different story, right? But I'm just pulling them up just so I can read them off. But on the stats, I mean, I think it's like Djokovic is like his serve plus return points 1% is like 110. Sinners is like 90. The reason why Sinners been able to win these matches in the 3 hardcourt matches, Sinners won 5 out of 9 break points. Um, I don't see that being sustainable. Certainly not winning 5 out of 9. Um, so I don't really like. I get Sinners hitting the ball well. I don't. I'm not. I think Djokovic is still above Sinner as a player. And then you add in the fact that you've got the physicality concerns, and you've got the if the stomach thing exists. I don't know if it does or not.
Yeah, that
Um,
has to be accounted for sure.
there's also a mental aspect to this, right? Like there's like Sinner's never made a final. So if Sinner gets to like late deep in the match, like is he gonna be comfortable?
Yeah, closing.
Um so so yeah, I think my play here. But I do think like on the basis of tennis, I think this line is fair, just like the two as tennis players. But taking in those extraneous factors, which are all late in the match factors, um, so
Well, I think just from a tennis perspective, I think Sinner should be like plus 150, plus 140. Like I agree, Djokovic is a overall better tennis player, but the way Sinner is playing right now up to this point has to be arguably more impressive than what Djokovic has done. Like he hasn't dropped a set yet. Um, I thought the Kachanov Rublev matches, like those are top tier opponents that he brushed aside pretty easily. I mean, I understand the Rublev, he could have lost a set. Maybe the Kachanov one too, but he didn't, right? And he was really good in those key moments. And you know, I think that Davis Cup win gives him some confidence and stuff. Like from a tennis perspective, Sinner is playing incredibly well right now. Um, but I think if you get him plus 140 just on tennis, and then it becomes plus 180, you know, from all those other factors that you mentioned, I think it's right on as well. I would look towards the over under here. I think we're gonna get 4 or 5 sets, and I don't see many like 6-2, 6-3 sets, to be honest. So I'm leaning the over 40 and a half at minus 115.
yeah, I have
That's
a hard time
what
getting there.
catches
Just I
my
can
eye.
see. I mean, if the physicality becomes a concern, you could get a late 6-2 set, and that could be a problem. Um, and I think like
What's
I
the
don't
weather
think
gonna be?
what
What's the weather gonna be?
it's a cool 70 degree. Like the weather's not bad for either guy. The
Okay.
weather's pretty fair, 70 degrees. It's just a matter of is Sinner ready for 4 to 5 like grueling sets of tennis, you know? He should be. He should be fresh. He should be fine, to be honest. It really should.
It's
But
really only the stomach thing. Like if that stomach thing is not a problem, I don't see why he couldn't last, because he's only played 12 sets this tournament in 8 days. It's not like he's like really extended himself, you know, during the first week of the tournament.
yeah, he spent 11 hours on court.
Yeah, it's just crazy that we're not talking about that with a 36-year-old. And Djokovic has played way more this tournament, you know? Like
Yeah.
the fact that it's a question mark with Sinner is just a testament to how great Djokovic is. I mean, if I got plus 200 with Sinner, I'd probably hit that on the money line. Plus 180 is not quite good enough for me. But I hear what you're saying with the Djokovic minus 220. Like, yeah, he's never lost a semifinal. And it's just the mental edge, all
Yeah.
that other stuff.
And
What
like I
about
said, I'll
this?
go back to in this matchup, I will go back to the more the deeper stats. Again, the serve points one, return points one being at 110.
Yeah.
Um, because like I don't like this isn't like a guy who's known for choking where I would expect Sinner to be better in the better moments, and that would make sense, right? Like this is Djokovic, who's usually pretty darn good in the big moments himself.
Mm-hmm.
So like I wouldn't expect Sinner to play. I don't think it's reasonable to expect Sinner to outplay Djokovic in the big moments.
Yeah, I don't think he will. I think he might get a
Right.
break here or there. Like, I don't necessarily think Sinner is going to outplay Djokovic on big moments. Like, if anything, like Sinner will rise to the occasion, but that will force Djokovic to raise his level, and it's going to be, you know, a
Yeah. I
wash.
mean, like I said, I think like it's so boring, but for me, the play is probably Djokovic on the money line at minus 220.
Money line. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is again, it's so boring, but I have I am going somewhere with this, but I'm gonna take a little while to get there. Um
But
Looking at the other things, I thought like some of the props, I thought
Mhm.
over 3.5 breaks for Djokovic was kind of interesting.
Over three
I
and a
won't.
half break.
I'm not going to hit it, but the over 3.5 breaks, I think, is a relatively decent. Relatively. Oh no, it's worse than I thought.
It's juiced.
Um,
It's 185. No.
what is the under 2.5 breaks for Sinner? Is that it? That's
Plus
a
105.
yeah, but but that's kind of interesting because Sinner. So Sinner has won in those three hard court matches that we just talked about, and granted, it was on quicker courts,
Mm-hmm.
but in those three hard court matches, Sinner's won 26.5% of return points in the three matches where Djokovic has won 2 out of 3, or where Sinner's won 2 out of 3. Those three matches this year: the Davis Cup, and
Mm-hmm.
the two World Tour Finals. 26.5% return points won is just abysmal. I mean, that's well below even what a guy like Eubanks does.
Yeah.
Um, so that it's in the day, so the courts won't be. I mean, it won't be fast, but it won't be that slow. But it won't be as fast as Turin was either. I mean, I probably won't hit it, but again, I think that's gonna be an interesting play if you're really looking to hit this match. Um,
So I just want to go back to like the pressure points. So Sinner has saved a ton of break points. He's only been broken twice this entire tournament, and he saved 8 break points against Rublev. He saved 9 of 10 against Kachanov. He saved all 4 against Baez, and he was 5 and 6. He saved 5 of 6 against VDZ. So like he's playing pressure points at a very high level. Do you think it's more like that's just like in a way kind of like luck, or do you think that's something that he can translate into a
in
matchup
between,
here?
I guess I'll say two things about that. Like maybe, but I don't think anybody's going to argue. Like I'm not going to argue with you and tell you that Rublev is a better player than Sinner. I'm not going to tell you that Kachanov is even near Sinner right now. I'm not going to tell you that VDZ is in Sinner's league right
Yeah,
now. I would tell you, Djokovic as a pressure player is darn good also. So does it translate into this match?
yeah,
I don't know, because I would expect Djokovic to raise his level in the key moments too.
right. True. Good point. I mean, I also think the first serve percentage is a huge thing for Sinner here. So like if you look at Sinner's first serve percentages in the last few matches, 76 against Rublev, 78 against Kachanov, 77 against Baez. Even the Davis Cup match, he was 71.6%. In the match he lost to Djokovic at the World Tour Finals, he was 57%.
Yeah, I mean, look, like first serve percentage is always a big deal.
But especially in this matchup, like Sinner's going to need to win some few points, some easy points, to take some pressure off,
I agree.
right?
I mean, I don't know, man. Asking Sinner to hit. I'm trying to look at Sinner. I mean,
But even in his one like subpar match this tournament, which was against VDZ in the first round, he only served 68.6%. So really,
which
if
is still
Sinner
really good,
serves,
by the way. That still is like well higher than the vast majority of guys.
yeah, that's
Um,
good. But if he's serving above 70%, he's going to have his chances to win this match. That's the way
well,
I
wait,
look at it.
Manny, are you looking at first serve points one, percentage of first
No,
serve
just
points one, or
percentage,
first
just
in? His first ins are in
first
like
serve
the
percent.
low 60s.
I'm sorry, first serve percentage points one.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
Okay. Um,
I mean, I
yeah.
guess they're correlated, right? So against Djokovic, he served 66.2% and then won 57.1% of those points in the loss to Djokovic in the final. In the Davis Cup match, he served 63.8%, but he won 71.6% of those points.
Which still isn't that good. Like winning 70% on
Yeah.
your first serve is not great. I think that's probably pretty close to average, if I'm not mistaken, probably even a little below average.
Yeah. So I mean, okay, if he serves an average of 60% first serves in, I feel like he needs to win 70 to 75% of those points to stand a chance.
I think if he I mean if he can make yeah, I mean maybe, I don't know. Like I mean, can he win 50% of his second serve points against Djokovic? I don't know. That's probably a reasonable guess as to how much he would win, is something in the 50 range. I don't think that's going to be good enough to get him there unless he pulls off another miracle like he did in these last two matches. I just
Yeah. He only won 44.7% of his second serve points in the Davis Cup win. And in the one that he won at the World Tour Finals, it was 55.3% of the second serve points he won. And then in the final that he lost 3-3, he only won 48% of the second serve points. So like he needs to win like above 50% of the second serve points, above 70 to 75% of the first serve points, and he needs to serve 60% first serves. I think that's really the barometer
I think it's got to be
for
75% to even have a chance because just basic math, right?
okay.
If he makes 60% of his first serves, if he wins 75% of those points and he wins 50% on the second serve, that's 65% of service points won. That's probably the minimum to have any chance. And even then, he'll probably need a miracle similar to these last two matches that he won. Because, again, if you look, like I said, in the three matches against Djokovic on hard courts, and granted, again, worse conditions, but he's only winning 27% of return points. He needs to be above 30 to have any chance. And slower courts will help him
Yeah.
there. He'll probably get close to that. So you've probably got that pretty close to right. He's got some sort of chance if he can get to like he's got some sort of chance if he can get to like, to the numbers you just stated, I think. But the question is, can he? And I think that's I think even if he gets there, I still think he's a dog. Like even if he hits those numbers, like I don't know. I think this line is like I said, I think it's pretty well placed. I would take Djokovic based on all the mental stuff, but I think on the tennis it's pretty well placed.
It's best of five. That adds something to it. Like we've seen Sinner keep it up for 3 sets against him. Can he can he maintain that for another 2 sets? That remains to be seen.
Yeah.
You know?
I think Djokovic
Um,
to win and both to win a set could be interesting at plus 125.
I like that. I like it a lot. I mean, just from a tennis perspective, I'm hoping Sinner pulls this out. Like, I just think it would be cool to see, a new face in the final. And like, I really feel like Sinner deserves one of these slams.
I also think Sinner
Um,
Medvedev would be an interesting finals matchup.
it would
Whereas I don't
be.
think Djokovic versus Medvedev or Zverev is particularly interesting.
Yeah, we've seen it so many times. I mean, Djokovic Medvedev is always interesting just from a tactical perspective, you know.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, I definitely want to see Sinner Medvedev, and they've had really good matches too. Like the Vienna final was insane. I think they've had couple battles recently.
Yeah.
Um, so from a betting perspective here, I like the over. I don't necessarily think physicality is going to be a problem with Sinner. I wouldn't back him to win just because of that, but but for it to be a long, grueling match, I don't see how it's a blowout in either way, you know?
I mean, I see how it could be 3 sets. I mean, I don't think it's going to be, but I can see this being Djokovic 3-0, especially if Sinner doesn't play well in the big moments. He's done better
Yeah,
with that, but last time we saw at Wimbledon, that was the exact problem. Like, ironically, Wimbledon Sinner played probably the best he's played against Djokovic from a pure tennis perspective, and that was like a dead even match. Sinner just couldn't win a big point to save his life.
right. I feel like he's improved since then, and he's gonna win some big points. It's not like he's gonna lose every big point like he did in that match. I said when we were doing pods during Wimbledon, like I thought he had a big point problem at that point. Like I remember there was a match in Halle against Sonego where he went like 0 of 12 on break points or something.
Yeah,
And that's
you're right.
Sonego, you know? Um, I feel like he's rectified that. I feel like confidence has a big part to play in how well you play big points. And this is the most confident he's been. Um, so I'm gonna probably hit the over 40 and a half. I might actually hit the 5 set line if I get a good price here.
Go back to something, Manny.
Yep.
If you feel good about the Djokovic to win this match in the end,
Mm-hmm.
what about hitting the Djokovic to win in over 38.5 at plus 175?
I like that. I like it a lot. Yeah. Are you gonna hit that?
No, but I think if you like Sinner in this matchup, especially in the early part of this match, I think that's a good place to look.
See, so the way I'm kind of attacking this match is like I think if Djokovic wins this, it's like I would look at a longer match because like then maybe physicality can become an issue late in the 5th set, you know? But if Sinner wins this, I feel like he's gonna have to win this in 4, you know? So like if I
Yeah.
would play Sinner, I might play like Sinner to win and under 41 and a half games.
What is Sinner minus a set and a half?
That's a good point. Plus 275. But that's not that much better than the plus 180 that you're getting for the money line.
Yeah.
Like I thought I would be getting like plus 350 for that. Then it would be worth it, I think. But in
Yeah.
this instance, it's not good enough. Do you agree with that take that like if Sinner wins this, it would most likely have to be in 3 or 4?
I think the longer this goes, the more Djokovic has an advantage. I also
Yeah.
think mentally, right? Like, like I still don't fully trust Sinner. Like, Sinner's never been in a position before where he had a chance in a semifinal.
Yeah. Yeah. Djokovic to win and a tiebreak in the match at plus 135. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like this is. I think the books have this pretty well played, but I do think Djokovic has an edge on the things I just mentioned. So I'll probably play the Djokovic money line at minus 220.
Okay, I'm not doing that.
Well, I mean, I don't think I've ever seen you play at
Way too
minus 200
juiced.
line in your life, so
Yeah, I don't like that.
I get it.
5 sets at plus 245.
Yeah.
Probably not good enough. Djokovic to lose the first set and win the match at plus 400 is kind of interesting.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah. Like, I don't see this being a straight set match, so I would lean towards playing a guy to win plus the over. Um, guy to win and both guys to win a set. So you get a little bit extra.
Yeah. I'm not so sure I agree, which is like I said,
You could
I
see
think most of
straight
these lines are
sets.
pretty darn well played.
Okay. Over 6.5 breaks. I could see that.
I mean, based on the head-to-head stats of the last three matches, I don't know.
It's probably well said. And the fact that it's during the day, right? It plays a little bit quicker.
Yeah.
It's probably well set.
It's also again like if Sinner's only going to win 30% of return points or less potentially, like how's he going to contribute much at all to that 6.5? So then you need to have Djokovic do all the work there. You need to have Djokovic beat the doors off. It's like,
Yeah.
but if you think it's going to be a close match, you think Joe and think Sinner will get a few breaks, then it's a decent play. But I'm not on it either way. I mean, I could see the argument both ways, but I'm pretty well off it.
Well, also, Djokovic has gone through lulls with serving. Like he started the Fritz match serving poorly. So his serve has kind of been on and off this tournament. There have been periods where he's been amazing on serve, but then there's also been periods where he's been getting broken a lot. Like Prismic broke him, I think, 3 straight times. Popperin got a few breaks. Like he hasn't been serving at the same clip he normally does.
Yeah, I hear you. It's just I think it's really hard to judge any of Djokovic's performances so far in this tournament. Besides maybe the Fritz one, and I'll just go back to I'll go back to what I said. Like how many break points did Fritz even generate against Djokovic in the first two sets? I think it was like one or two. It wasn't very many at all.
Yeah, it wasn't that many. Yeah. He
But again,
Fritz
that's
had
his
six
puppet. You know
break
what I mean?
points for
Like
the
it's so hard to
match.
evaluate this because if you look at his five matches, I don't even want to really talk about Prismic or Popperin because he just wasn't the same player in the beginning of the tournament. Etch, he beat pretty good. He didn't face a break point there. Manarino's not even worth talking about. And Fritz, I mean, he saved 4 out of 6 break points, but again, Fritz is his puppet.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's something to be said about Djokovic raising his level at the end of the slam. And I
yeah.
think he gets a game just for that, just his track record in semis and finals.
I mean, this is what he
Um,
plays for, right? We said he plays 4 weeks
no,
a year. Realistically, Djokovic season is 4 weeks a year, and this is one of those weeks.
right. Yeah. Yeah, it's probably well said. I'm just gonna go with the total, I think. And I'm just gonna hit the over 40.5 at minus 115. And just I'm hoping for a classic. Like I'm really hoping for something special.
I get it.
So all right, next match. Medvedev against Zverev. Medvedev is a 2-game favorite, minus 155 on the money lines. Zverev is plus 130. The over-under is 41.5. Um, it's another line that's just very well set. These books are very sharp with this. I'm leaning Zverev money line at plus 130, but then the mental aspect comes in. The Medvedev has kind of had his number recently. Besides, I think Cincinnati, Zverev got him there, but that's about it. Um, it's a totally different matchup than Alcaraz because like Medvedev is gonna get more balls in the court. The 6 balls in the court, we're not gonna have to be screaming that at Medvedev. That's for sure.
Well, maybe on the serve. But yeah, you wouldn't think so.
Yeah. Um, so also I think it's hard to back up a win like that. Like that was such an emotional big win for Zverev, that like backing that up with another big win against a guy that has had your number. I don't know if I want to back Zverev in this spot. Initially I did, just but that was like I think I posted on the Discord, but that's just because like I was overreacting kind of to the Alcaraz win and the Alcaraz performance. Um, but now thinking about it more, I think it's well set. Probably another match I'm targeting the over here at over 41. It's getting high. I wish it was 40 and a half, not 41, but I'd lean over here. What are your thoughts?
I got a lot of thoughts actually. I think the first thing is, so I think it's a really interesting line because looking at the stats again, the recent stats last 6 months would seem to indicate that this is a little better. Whether you look at this tournament or the past 6 months,
Mm-hmm.
Zverev's been the slightly better player. It's been close, but Zverev's been slightly better. But the head-to-head here is so in favor of Medvedev. Like it
Yep.
looks close, like 11-7 or something, but 4 of those wins were before Medvedev even broke into the top 20. And since then, I think it's like 11-3 Medvedev. Remember, Medvedev does an unfair tactics against Djokovic. He uses Jedi tricks. So he could use the Force of the Jedi to eventually to beat Zverev if this gets close.
What was
Uh,
their beef in the Monte Carlo
what?
match? Remember their beef in Monte
No, well,
Carlo?
that's why I said the Jedi mind tricks.
Okay.
He's like Medvedev will use, Medvedev can resort to those. Um, the challenge, and another challenge here, is if you look career in semis and finals of slams, Zverev is 1-6. And that win, he came back against 2 sets down from Boost. I'm sure you remember that.
Yep. Yep.
Um, Medvedev is 6-6. So it's tough because I can see both sides of this line. I can see if you're going to back either side of this line, I could see doing it. I don't know, man. I gotta go back to like, and then the last thing about is the physicality. Both these guys have been on court a lot. They've both been on court almost 17
Yep.
hours each.
Yep.
Neither guy looked particularly great at the end of their match. I thought if that went to a fifth set against Alcaraz, Zverev was done.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't think Medvedev looked like, I know Medvedev played okay, but I didn't think he looked particularly great. But I do trust Medvedev has a few extra hours of rest. I don't think it matters a lot, but it's probably worth a little bit. Um, I've got 2 plays here in the end, but either guy could. This could end up being a match of who goes first physically. And I don't know. Like, I'm not sure who I trust more physically. I trust both these guys actually quite a bit physically.
I do too.
But they've also both spent a lot of time on the court, so there's both sides of that. I've played Medvedev and laid the 2 games, and I've played the Medvedev at the -155, and I've parlayed that with Djokovic. So I got
Okay.
+134, parlaying both those, like taking the Sinner, or not the Sinner, taking the Medvedev Djokovic final. Um,
Okay.
those are my plays. But I can see arguments in a lot of different directions. I just think that like I'll side with the head to head, and the fact that I think that if this gets close, it's a big advantage to Medvedev. I also don't think like any of the stupid stuff Medvedev does sometimes when he's way ahead in matches, he's gonna do in this match.
Yeah, so I'm kind of using the head to head in Medvedev's advantage and then the form in Zverev's advantage. And to me, it's a wash, and that's why I lean over. If that makes
I
any
mean, it's
sense.
hard for me to argue any of that with you. You know what I mean? Like it's like I get
Yeah.
why the book has put it the way it has, and that's why I think it's a cool match to handicap and to talk about. Because I think there's a lot to chat about here. Like I think I see both sides.
Yeah. And I think a lot of their recent matches, like I know Medvedev has pulled out, but like they've been pretty
But they've
close,
been close, yeah. Yeah.
right? And most of them have gone over the 22 and a half,
Well, I don't
uh,
know if it's 40 and a half, 41. What is it, 41 and a half now
41
it's
and
up
a
to?
half.
that 41.5 really does not correlate to a 22.5 in a best of three. It's more like
It doesn't.
it's more like almost like a 24 or 24.5 in a best of three. It's a really high over.
But what
That's
I'm
why.
saying is it's a lot of like extended sets. Like I see a lot of 7-6s. I see a lot of 7-5s. There's 1-6-2 here. That was on clay. Cincinnati was a really close match. Another tiebreak at the Nito ATP finals. It's like there have been a ton of close matches.
So I would normally agree with you, but like I'm a little worried about like does somebody go away physically? So the over scares me because if somebody goes away in the latter two sets, that could be a little scary. But I see the argument. Like it's hard for me to argue with you there. I don't necessarily think it's like a. I don't know. I think it's a fun match to cap because I think you can make an argument for almost everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What's both guys to break in the first set? Plus 160. I think I'm gonna hit that.
That could be worth a look. Like I've got to look at the break props on this because that could be worth a look.
Yeah. Because I feel like Zverev doesn't get as much progression against Medvedev on serve just because of like how hard he is to ace.
Well, and plus Zverev doesn't do a whole lot of acing himself.
Right. And I feel like Medvedev is smart enough to direct that return to Zverev's forehand where he can't make as much progression. Like from the eye test, I think it's a good matchup for Medvedev. And the results show that recently.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think the biggest thing is just the mental. Like I think there's especially in a slam semi. I think there's a mental gulf between these two guys.
Okay.
I'm not even Zverev. I mean, I don't think Zverev is necessarily a complete choker, but he's had some issues with it. Whereas Medvedev,
Yeah.
like Medvedev, is almost the opposite. Where like I don't think he had like he gets whiny sometimes in matches he knows he can win, but like I don't know if I've ever seen like mental really like cost Medvedev a match. Where I'm like, oh, mental Medvedev just went away
Yeah.
mentally, or he just like gave up a match mentally.
And when he like fully respects a guy and like when he plays top 10 guys, it's rare that he whines and goes clown mode.
Yeah,
He only does it when he's like struggling against like Nuno Borges,
exactly.
right? Or
Exactly.
Chris O'Connell. Like there's a
Which again, when I look at the form, right, that's like that's when I start to ask, like, okay, is Zverev's form really better? Because like if you're saying his form is better, well, how much of that is Medvedev going clown mode against weaker guys? Now, I did look against top 20 guys over the past 6 months, and Zverev's a little better there too. So
okay.
I don't think it's completely that, but again, I think it's like I can see an argument both ways. I mean, it's really a cool match to cap because I think there's facts in both directions.
Okay.
Like I think the books put this at a good spot, but like I said, I've gone with the Medvedev -2 and the Medvedev Djokovic parlay just because I'm putting more weight in the mental side and in the mental capping this match.
Then what can you see 3-0 here as well? I think 3-0 is very unlikely. So if you're playing Medvedev, I would play Medvedev to win and both players to win a set at plus
That's
140.
not a bad look either. I've been staring at that. I think that's a decent look too.
That's probably where I go. I get all your points on the mental edge. I see breaks here. Like when they've played in the past, haven't there been quite a few breaks? The Cincinnati one, there were 5 breaks. The ATP finals, which was a really quick court,
Three
only one.
breaks.
No, it's 1 break. Break point saved. That's
Yeah,
1
one
break.
plus two, three.
Oh yeah, 3. You're right. Yep. The Beijing semifinal, 2 breaks, 1
Two.
set. Yeah,
I think it's probably. I think this is pretty well set.
well
Like
priced. But I do like both players to break in first set at plus 160.
It's not a bad look. That's probably the one I'll stare at the most.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm gonna play Medvedev to win and both to win a set at plus 140. I'm gonna do that break prop, and I'm probably gonna hit the over 41.5. Those are gonna be my three plays in this match.
Yeah, I think it's done.
Do we have any GBM plays?
I mean, if you want to go with me on the Medvedev Djokovic parlay at plus 140.
Mm,
I don't think it's amazing value, but I think there's value. But it may not be any, to be honest. Like these are just hard matches. I mean, I think this is a pretty well. I mean, you know, it's a tough time of the year. Probably not the more I think about it. I think I don't really love uniting up too heavy on these matches.
yeah, the lines are very sharp. I agree.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna join you. I think there's a path for especially Zverev to win.
I think there's a path for both. I agree.
There's a path for Sinner as well.
Yeah, I get it. I get it.
I love the way Sinner is playing right now. Like I think if there's a time to get Djokovic here, it's now. I don't necessarily think it will happen, but I'd need a little more than plus 140. Like I'd need at least plus 160 to go in with you there.
I
Um,
get it.
so yeah, it's sad. No GBM plays here, but we're hoping for two classics. And I'm really, especially the Djokovic Sinner. Um, I I think that's going to just be a great match to watch, and I'm stoked like being on the East Coast that it's at 10:30 and not at 3 in the morning. Like also from a, scheduling perspective, like it was the right thing for the tournament to do, but like I'm just like happy that
I get it. Yeah.
we'll actually be able to watch it. You want to do a spaces during the match?
Yeah. Yeah. Let's plan for that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it'll be fun. Yeah. All right, everyone. Any last thoughts before we sign off?
No, honestly, like I think it should be two fun matches. I'll say that for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think those are my biggest thoughts. I think it'll be two fun matches, but yeah, it's
Yeah.
always as always, thanks everyone for listening. Hope we've had a fun
Absolutely.
time betting. We've
Yep.
had a fun time betting. I don't know if we've been winning as much, but we've had a fun time betting. I think I'm doing okay because I did really well the first 3 days. So I still think I need to track. I need to put my results in the spreadsheet, but I think I'm still doing pretty good because I was up big the first 3 days, and I've really calmed my volume down the second week just because I think the lines are so sharp. Um. So yeah,
Yeah, it's been rough for me on the single bets or like on the daily bets, but the futures have been amazing. They've actually
yeah, I
been
killed on the futures
holding
too.
me together. So still down for the year, but just need to maybe hit a parlay here or there or have one or two good days in a row to get me back in. So GBM plays were down, I think 9 units now with a winning day yesterday. I got to do the math, but yeah, we had a good patch and then another rough patch. So the year is young, right?
It is, yeah,
A lot of tennis left. So,
yeah,
all right, everyone, have a great day. Enjoy the matches, and we'll see you for a spaces or another
yeah.
pod coming up.
Thanks everyone.
Good one.